Hi, I'm Chef Gail Sokol and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going vintage. We are going to be making a very old-fashioned frosting. And it was the traditional frosting for a red velvet cake. And it goes way back to the 1800s. And it's light and it's fluffy. And it's very delicious and a great competitor against the cream cheese icing that a lot of people use on a red velvet cake. This can be used on any cake. And what makes it so interesting, the name Ermine is actually named after the light and fluffy white weasel that is the ermine. I know it sounds really funny, but it's named because the ermine has light, fluffy fur. And this frosting is light and fluffy, obviously furless. So it will be delicious. And before we get started, please click that notification button. I want you to become a subscriber. I don't want you to miss any of my tips or videos because they're pretty awesome. And I love having you in my kitchen with me. It's like having a friend. So this frosting goes way back. It's also known as many other things. You can call it a milk frosting. You can call it a boiled milk frosting. It's a type of buttercream. And if you add egg yolks to it, it's actually a German buttercream, but we're going to be calling it an Ermine frosting. And it is light and fluffy and scrumptious. So we're going to get our pot going. We have to make a pudding, very, very light pudding, and it has no eggs in it. And that's why it goes way back to the 1800s when people didn't have eggs or maybe didn't have access to eggs. So I'm going to add 1.5 cups, and it's got to be whole milk. Use whole milk. I'm pouring it into a saucepan. I'm going to add a pinch or about 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. And I'm going to add approximately 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour. And I'm whisking it. The minute I add it, I'm whisking it in. All right? And this should actually form a nice thick pudding. What you're basically doing is really making a roux, if you can see it. I'm going to whisk all those lumps out, so don't worry. And I'm going to get it nice and thick. And once it's thick, I'm going to add vanilla extract. I'm going to add 1.5 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract. You don't want to use imitation because you don't want this beautiful frosting to taste like cough syrup. So we're going to let this thicken up. And frosting that is made this way needs to be cooled down because we're going to add some butter to it. And we're going to add 3/4 pound of butter, which is 3 sticks of butter that has gotten to room temperature. So you can see I whisked all the lumps out now, all right? And we're just waiting for it to thicken. With your whisk, you want to make sure you go into the corners, the round corners of your pan. And this is a nice, heavy, medium saucepan. I always put it into a medium saucepan. Here it goes already, all right? It's thickening already, and I'm going to keep it going. Remember, flour is a starch, so it's going to start thickening by soaking up the liquid in the milk. Okay, see that? So I'm just going to do that. And I'm going to take it off for a little bit. And I'm going to take my, I just want to take my hot mitt so it doesn't cook anything. And I'm just going to, see that? Get that nice and stirred. So you really want to get all the lumps and bumps out, okay? So get that really, really going into the corners, and it's nice and thick like a pudding. So I'm going to put my 1.5 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract in there. I did not want to add it while it was cooking because if your vanilla, oh, I can really smell it. If it has some alcohol in it, I don't want it to evaporate while it's undergoing the heating process, which means you're not going to taste the vanilla. So I'm holding it up so you can actually see how nice and smooth that is. And once it's all in there, I'm going to get the whisk out. It looked like it was getting lumpy for a minute. Don't Don't get upset. All right, so you just keep whisking and those lumps will go bye-bye. We're going to put this immediately. Remember, this is also called a boiled milk frosting. So what did we do? We brought milk to a boil, right? So it's an old-fashioned term. And it's lovely. It's a type of buttercream, egg-free, so if you're allergic to eggs, but you like a rich, beautiful, light, fluffy frosting that feels like a rodent's fur. I think that's so funny. But it's just an old-fashioned name. And the ermine is, I think people used to make coats out of ermines. I'm taking plastic wrap. I'm changing the subject. Take some plastic wrap. And because this is technically a custard, we're going to put this directly on the plastic wrap, that is, directly on the surface of the custard, because you can form what's known as casein. It is a protein in all dairy products and milk, and it will form a skin, and we don't want a skin. So what I want to do now is I want to chill this, and it takes about 30 minutes in the fridge. Once it is chilled, then we're going to actually beat it with some butter and sugar to make our beautiful ermine fluffy frosting. See you back. So my boiled milk concoction has cooled and it's beautiful. Looks like a pudding. And now we're ready to make it into our ermine, like buttercream, our boiled milk frosting. So I'm going to take 3 sticks, yeah, you heard me, 3 sticks of unsalted, softened butter. And it's got to be softened. And we're going to put it into our electric mixer. We're going to add 1.5 cups of granulated sugar, and we're going to beat the daylights out of it, people. We're going to beat the daylights with our whip attachment. And we're going to make it nice and fluffy. We want fluff. All right, and then we're going to beat in our pudding. And that's when it turns into a buttercream. So there's various types of buttercreams. There's like 9 or 10 buttercreams. And maybe you've never made an ermine type of a frosting, but it's really a buttercream, just made with milk that comes to a boil. So it's called a boiled milk frosting. So I'm going to let that go. And we're not looking for the butter to turn white or anything. We're just looking to cream the mixture till it's light and fluffy. Because remember that ermine, that little weasel, has light and fluffy fur, and that's what we're trying to reproduce in a frosting. All right? It's so funny that it's named after a little weasel, but that's life for you. It just makes it fun. Makes it fun. Think about what you'll talk about when you frost a cake and you discuss this old-fashioned vintage frosting. So I'm gonna turn my motor off for a second. I just want to show you. So it's nice and light and fluffy. You can see that. Okay. And now I'm going to add spoonfuls of my pudding. All right. I'm just going to scrape down my sides of my bowl. And we're going to get this in. We're going to add the pudding like a tablespoon at a time, not a tablespoon at a time, but a spoonful at a time. And I have a big spoon. So on low to medium speed, I'm going to come over, and it's cooled. Remember, if it wasn't cooled, it would actually melt my butter, and we don't want that. So we're going to incorporate that in. Just let it get incorporated in. Turning beautiful. Get that in there. You little weasel. I love it. I love the name of that. Now what I'm going to do midway through, you don't have to do this, but I just want to sort of wipe around the sides. You're going to see it turn into an actual frosting. It's going to turn into like this buttercream. And it is lovely. Remember, if the custard had egg yolks in it, which custards tend to have some form of egg, It would be a German buttercream. But this is not a German buttercream. This is an Ermine frosting. All right, we're gonna keep on adding. I'm gonna lower it so I'm not wearing the weasel. That sounds like a phrase that Chef Gail would come up with, right? So I'm gonna get all my luscious pudding in here. And remember, there's nothing sweet about our pudding. We really need the sugar with the butter to sweeten it. And you can use this for any type of cake you want. Now I'm going to use my rubber spatula, get all this good stuff off, get rid of the spoon. And now I'm going to add the rest of it. It's lovely, people. It's lovely. You're going to love this. And it's so much fun to make. It really is. All right. You're going to see this beautiful frosting. It's lovely. You might even see this on a red velvet cake at some point on Chef Gail's website. Look at this beautiful frosting. It's just beautiful. Oh my goodness, it's light and fluffy. And it's almost like a sweetened whipped cream, but it's a lot more stable because of all the butter in there. And I'd say this makes almost 4 cups. So this is enough to frost probably at least a 2 9-inch cake, a 2 9-inch cake, 2 9-inch layer cake. See, the weasel's going to my head. What can I say? So I'm just gonna sort of fold in the rest of the butter or the rest of the butter mixture that didn't get mixed in. Look at that. Look at that. Isn't that like lovely? It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's delicious. So it's vanilla flavored. You can put this on your red velvet cake. You can put it on any cupcake. It's pipeable. It's spreadable. Please, I hope you try to make this vintage Ermine frosting. Enjoy. Till next time.